amazing that when you think everything's been shown, everything's been seen, and everything's been said about the Hollywood Blacklist, there is something like the film you're about to watch coming up that will shatter that preconception. This is a very rare occasion to see a film of a lost footage of a lost party from 1983, the last gathering of the blacklisted artists in Hollywood. This is the world premiere of a documentary which has been through a very long journey since '83. The Hollywood Blacklist, survivors tell their story. On my left-hand side, Marie-Dominique Montel, the director of the film, the co-director, Christopher Jones, and on my right-hand side, the person responsible for restoring the footage, Blake Jones. So it's almost unreal that this happened, this party took place, and it was filmed. How did this thing come about?
Well, thank you, Ezen, for inviting us and the Locarno Film Festival, and thanks to all of you for this premiere. This film is actually the miracle, because for a long time, for 20 years, Christopher Jones and I have been making documentaries about movies, and for about the same time, even longer, we have been friends with an American movie historian called Pat McGilligan, and he wrote books about movies. We made documentaries about movies, and we met very often, and he told us about this adventure of his, which happened in 1983, with a friend of his, actually his roommate from university. They decided to invite the people they called the survivors, the people who had been blacklisted in the late 40s, 50s, early 60s, and who were still around and who would agree to come to this wonderful party they were going to throw. They threw the party, they filmed most of the people, they interviewed them, and Pat told us this wonderful story, and he said, I've got this mountain of footage, and it's going to be a wonderful movie someday. And every time we met him, over 20, 25 years, we got the same story. And I said, what about your movie? And he said, well, next time. And the last time we saw him, well, he's still very well alive, you are going to see him in the movie, but last time we met him, he said, listen, this is a dream of mine, but in fact, I probably will never make this movie. It is, the rushes are almost rotting in a basement in Los Angeles. Please take it and do something with it. And with his agreement and the agreement of the other man who had made the footage at the time, we got this movie and had to restore it. This footage, there were hours and hours, like 60 hours of footage. And it's like a first-hand account of what really happened to these people. In fact, blacklisting them was a way of silencing them. And suddenly here they are, and here they give you a first-hand account of what happened to them. And I think this is very moving. It took 2 years to prepare because the footage was in really bad condition. Some was completely ruined, but here, Blake Jones here is a genius of restoration. He worked hard at it, and most of it was restored, like 75% of the original footage, but that's already more than almost 40 hours of rushes. And this is the backbone, not the blackbone, the backbone of our movie that you are going to see.
Christopher, the version we're going to watch is 52 minutes. And we were talking about hours of footage.
Yes.
How did you arrive at what we're going to see?
Well, it was very difficult because we had to impose a discipline on the story. That story is vast. There are stories, obviously, people who would be very interesting to listen to, but they did not attend the banquet. So what we worked with was basically a little bit, it's a night to remember. It is, the story is the banquet and the people who attended the banquet and decided to come. And in the beginning, there was a great reticence to do this. And finally, after saying no, 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 you'll hear that they all came. And they all, oh yes, hundreds. And it was a very difficult thing to organize for the people who wanted to create this, how could I say, homage to the Blacklist, Blacklistees. And they came. It's a very moving and emotional story, because these people suffered greatly, and they had perhaps the most terrible thing for here in this festival, which is a festival of cinema. They had their creativity robbed. And unfortunately, we have to say perhaps that the lesson, if there is a lesson in the Blacklist, is that it never really went away. It exists in the different forms, it got better, goes up and down, but this propensity to finger a minority or finger those who think differently, it's still today.
Exactly. Blake, tell us about how you salvaged the footage.
Well, basically what happened was that we first found the film material in the basement of this gentleman's home, and it was stored in a very damp area, so it started to get a film decomposition called vinegar syndrome. And basically what happens is the film starts to get bleached. So I had to take all the film to a cutting room and go through it roll by roll, and then ascertain what was scannable. And then I went through and scanned everything, brought all the rushes back, and then had to go and do the digital restoration. Now the restoration, I found that most of the tools for restoration fell short of being able to fix what I wanted to. So there were some extremely deep scratches and things all through it. And so I actually wrote my own software to actually encompass and fix these problems. And so what you see sometimes in like the Jules Dassin interview, you'll see some slight discoloration and some things on it, but it's definitely 100% better than it was.
When are we going to see the entire footage as a documentation of the Blacklist, or perhaps a longer version of it, or a transcription of what they say in the film? Because there's the party, the gathering, but there are also the interviews, which are quite interesting.
There are many interviews. Our great goal would be to put together a longer, more complete version, including the children of the Blacklist. Because as much as we talk about the people who had their creativity robbed, at the same time there were children involved, and they didn't know what was going on. You'll hear Ring Lardner talk about what went on in his family. I just got, the day before yesterday, a mail from a lady who has become a filmmaker in her own right, very well known in Australia, who said, I didn't know until I was an adult that both my parents had been blacklisted, and that's why I'm in Australia. So it is something we've talked to many, the daughter of John Garfield, for example, who is still going strong in New York City.
She sent us a video message.
She's a great gal. And there are many others, the Jim Lardner of the Lardner family. But I think it's a large story, and I think it's my personal opinion that far too often we like to put a name on it, McCarthy, etc. Today it's Trump. But no, it's all our responsibility to stand up and say, no, we want freedom of speech. That's what it's all about.
What I must say also is that these people you know, they were blacklisted in the 50s, 60s, late 40s for the earliest one. But in 1983, they were still quite young and thriving. And it was really this way of having this first-hand account, not by, well, they might have been older and very, very full of life, but I mean, they were very close to the event. And their way of telling it, or telling how it happened to them, or on how they reacted, and what they had to do or what they tried to avoid, is still very close to there, and it's very moving, as I said.
Thank you very much. I know it is criminally short to break a 43-year-long silence with just 15 minutes of introduction. I already feel like a member of HUAC. But after the screening, the team will be here, so if you want to have an informal conversation, you can do it in the lobby of the cinema. And this is also for those, I'm sure you have noticed that this is a double bill. So there is the documentary first, the world premiere of the documentary, and after a 2-minute break, there will be the 35mm screening of City of Fear. And already in the documentary, you see LA as the city of fear. We go back to LA in the 50s in a film by Irving Lerner to see how these people felt in the 50s in the city that was supposed to be their place of creativity and collaboration. So thank you again, Marie-Dominique, Christopher, and Blake, and I hope you enjoy this really invaluable document of the Blacklist. Thank you very much.